What happens when something attaches itself to an object? It becomes a cursed object, obviously. Welcome back to the least professional channel on YouTube. How's everybody doing today? So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about cursed objects. And this is going to be a little freeform video, a little bit different. Basically, I've got some pages pulled up here that I'm going to go over and talk about. Just kind of talk about what a cursed object is, some of the things that are supposedly cursed objects, and my thoughts on them. And then I want to get your thoughts on cursed objects in the comments. So once I've gone through this, once we get to the end of the video, go down in the comments. Let me know if you've heard of any of the ones that we talk about, or if maybe you come into contact with a cursed object at some point that was supposedly haunted by something, and what your experience was with it. Because I'm genuinely curious to hear, because I've never personally really come into contact with anything I don't think that was cursed. But let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so what is a cursed object? So I'm going off of the definition that's listed here on Wikipedia because that was really the definition that I thought. I looked at a couple different ones and they were pretty similar, but this was probably the easiest one to read, at least as far as I could tell. So essentially, a cursed object, or cursed objects, are generally supposed to have been stolen from their rightful owners or looted from a sanctuary. It says the Hope Diamond is supposed to bear such a curse and bring misfortune to its owner. The stories behind why those items are cursed vary, but they usually are said to bring bad luck or manifest unusual phenomenon related to their presence. Busby's stoop chair was reportedly cursed by the murderer Thomas Busby shortly before his execution, so that everyone that would sit in it would die. That's one I've never heard of, so it'll be interesting to see if that's on the list of 21 items that we've got here. So let's take a look at that list and talk a little bit more about some of these actual cursed objects. Okay, so the list that I'm going off of is actually from scoopwhoop.com, and I'll share that link down in the description if you want to check out the page yourself. But it was a pretty comprehensive list. I've heard of a lot of them on here, I think, but let's dig into it a little bit and find out. I know I've heard of the first one here. So the first one here is the Cursed Mirror. And the Cursed Mirror is on the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana. And it's said to be one of the most haunted places in the world, the Myrtles Plantation is. And I've actually seen videos of people doing investigations there. They allow paranormal investigations and that kind of thing in there. However, the most spooky item in the house is a mirror. Locals claim that the mirror is cursed and has the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her two children who were poisoned by their slave Chloe trapped inside it. I would think if there was an object like that, if it truly was cursed, there would be some way to verify that. Like, that's kind of creepy. Imagine that you were standing there looking in a mirror, and we've seen movies where somebody will be standing in a mirror and they're looking at it, and something's behind them. So imagine being in a house and seeing something like that. That would be creepy. So the next one on the list here, I haven't heard of personally. Baker's wedding dress. So it's inside the Baker Mansion in Altoona, Altoona, USA. I'm not sure where Altoona's at. But the wedding dress of Anna Baker, who fell in love with an iron worker. Legends claim that Anna eloped from her home to get married to her lover, but her father forcibly brought her back and locked her in a bedroom. She then refused to marry anyone else and spent the rest of her life alone. After her death, the members of the Baker family reported spotting Anna's wedding dress at different places around the house, and some of them even saw the spirit of Anna Baker moving around the house dressed in the same wedding dress. That's an interesting one. It would be kind of creepy to see, seeing any apparition or any full body apparition of somebody who had died would be kind of creepy. But seeing and having the dress hanging there, that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why they would have saved it. I wonder if she actually got married. I'll have to look into that one. Maybe that'll be a story for one of the videos down the road. The AnnabeLle Doll. I have heard of this one. Who hasn't heard of the AnnabeLle Doll? The AnnabeLle Doll, the discovery of this doll dates back to 1970 when a mother bought it from an antique shop as a birthday gift for her daughter. Soon the family noticed strange things happening inside the house related to the doll. The family then called for the help of renowned psychic investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. I roll my eyes every time I hear them, mostly because of the movies. Who found the doll possessed the spirit of a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins who was brutally murdered. The doll is now in the Occult Museum in Connecticut. I have heard of this one. I've actually always wanted to kind of go see this one. This is one of 2 haunted dolls, and I think the other one might be on this list. And so we'll talk about that one if and when it comes up. But Annabelle, that would be an interesting one to go see. Just because that's kind of... It's a weird concept to me that a doll... especially that... I don't know if anybody recognizes that, but that looks like a Raggedy Ann doll, which I had when I was a kid, a Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy doll. And if you're not familiar, it was a children's book series. I don't remember a lot about it because I was real little, but we had the dolls from the series. And had I seen this when I was a kid, I probably would have been scared to death of those dolls because it looks eerily similar to the ones that we had. And mine were hanging up we had a net with stuffed animals in it, and we had the Raggedy Ann doll and Raggedy Andy doll, and they were hanging up in the net in my room. So at night, laying there looking up at the dolls, like, that was always creepy to me. I can't imagine if something was actually possessed with a doll, with a ghost or something like that, how much creepier that might be. So the next one on the list, the Screaming Skull. I haven't heard of this one. The Burton Agnes Hall in Burton Agnes, England, is home to a creepy paranormal object called the Screaming Skull. The Screaming Skull is believed to be of Catherine Ann Griffith, who died in the same house after being attacked by bullies in 1620. Interesting. Every night, the terrifying ghost is seen roaming around the skull, making tremendous noise and scaring out everyone who tried to remove the skull. Who's trying to remove the skull? Like, that's... Are people going into houses to, or museums? Yeah, like, it sounds like it's in the modern day museum, and people are going in there trying to remove... What the heck are people doing? That's a creepy one. That's probably more creepy because it's actually a human skull. The hand resist him painting. Another one that I haven't heard of. But judging by the painting right there, that's a creepy ass painting. The Hand Resist Him painting by artist Bill Stoneham is probably one of the most haunted pieces of art, according to the artist. This painting is a representation of the doorway that connects our world with the world of the spirits. Ah, that makes sense now. The owners of the painting have claimed that the characters in the picture move or disappear in the night. That might be a little creepy. Imagine you get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and you're walking down the hallway and you look up at your painting hanging on the wall. This is already creepy. I mean, look at those eyes. Like, the kid's eyes are creepy, but then the hands behind it. But imagine you walk by this painting and one of these kids is missing from it. Like, that's legit, like, that would be really freaky. I'm not gonna lie, if that happened to me. The Anguished Man Painting. I have heard briefly of this one. I remember seeing a documentary about it. It's been a while ago. Fascinated by the charm of the Anguished Man Painting, Sean Robinson inherited the painting from his grandmother and decided to hang the painting on the wall of his house. Soon after that, Sean and his family started experiencing paranormal events, like the cracking of doors in the middle of the night and sudden blood-curdling screams from nowhere. Ew. Sean's wife decided to investigate the origin of the painting and found that the artist who painted the painting, they say painting a lot in this paragraph, committed suicide, and before doing that he mixed his own blood with the paint that he used in making the painting. Learning this, the couple decided to hide it in the basement of their house in Cumbria. That would be a weird situation. The artist mixed his own blood in with the paint. That might just be an urban legend. I might have to research that a little bit more and make a full video on it. Take a break in the action for a minute here, going through this list. I want to get you guys' thoughts because I want to bring back the Ohio Legends and Tales series. It's really difficult to get out right now, partially due to the weather, partially due to the time and that kind of stuff. So I was thinking about making some Ohio Legends and Tales stuff and doing it in this kind of format, at least for the short term, just to be able to do those videos again. And maybe expanding on the Ohio, instead of keeping it just in Ohio, and maybe expanding to stuff like that. Be interested to hear your guys' thoughts on what you might think about something like that. So let me know that as well down in the comments. But let me take a sip of tea and we'll get back to the list here. Already some really creepy ones on here. Okay. So this one I have not heard of yet. I don't think I have. The piece of Uluru rock. I hope I'm saying that correctly. It looks like it's in Australia, so if anybody's watching in Australia, let me know if I said that correctly. Uluru Rock is a large sandstone formation in the southern part of the Northern Territory, Australia. Also known as the Ayers Rock, this place is sacred for the Aboriginal people of the area. This is the reason they request, or rather advise visitors, not to take anything from the site. However, many tourists smuggled home small chunks of formation and experienced bad luck, severe illness, terrible breakups, and even the death of loved ones. So I will say this, because not about this one in particular, but I have heard stories of supposedly cursed locations where if you take pieces of the location home, you could be cursed, or take a ghost home with you, or bad things will happen. And I can't help but wonder how much of that is genuinely the caretakers of the location, whoever that happens to be, spreading this out. Maybe it started somewhere, maybe they didn't start it, but they kind of went with it because it kind of discourages people, especially superstitious people, from taking objects. Because realistically, like these kind of historic places and places that are important to people, I'll just say this: you shouldn't take things from historic places. And that kind of entices people to want to take things from those places. And I wonder how many of those people maybe took a rock home, had something bad happen. Maybe they took it home thinking they heard about the curse, but they were like, you know what? It's not a real thing. And then they took a rock home and something bad happened and they attributed it to the curse and then sent it back because they thought that maybe the curse was real. I can't help but wonder how much of that plays into it. And that would be confirmation bias too, because if somebody, let's say somebody took it home and nothing bad happened, or little things happened, but they didn't really attribute it to the curse. So how many people, I wonder, have pieces of this area in their houses today that just never had anything happen, or never decided to send the piece back? That would be interesting to find out. But so that's kind of a cool one. I hope that's not. I can't remember what the other one was that I heard the same type of rumors about. There's a few sites here in the United States I know that we have that have the same kind of like cursed air about them. That one's freaky. Letta the Gypsy Doll. According to the locals of Romania, a Romanian man handcrafted a doll for his son Letta. Unfortunately, the boy drowned while playing with the doll, and his spirit got trapped inside. The man then decided to give the doll to the son of one of his workers. Oh my God. The child claimed that the doll talked to him, while other successive owners reported that holding the doll or being around it causes a feeling of immense grief and makes them cry without reason. First of all, that thing's creepy looking. But second of all, like, I can't imagine being... Put yourself in that guy's shoes. Like, your kid had drowned, had an accident. And you're giving his doll to one of your coworkers' friends, the doll that was with him when he died. Like, I think as a parent, if something like that happened to my kid, it would be hard to give up a piece, because it would feel like a piece of them. Man, I can't imagine what that guy must have gone through. If that's, I'm assuming, by the way, that all of these are, I'm taking them at face value. So there's going to be follow-up videos, but for this video, I'm taking these at face value. But that's really sad, like that whole circumstance. All right, so number 9 on here, Bulgarian phone number. Now, I have heard of cursed phone numbers before, but this one in particular, it sounds weird. There's a Bulgarian phone number, +359 888 888 888. Easy number to remember, which was used for 10 years and is now closed. The reason behind deactivating the number lies in the death of those 3 people who used it. So 3 people had the same phone number and died. That can't be the only phone number like that, right? All of the owners of this number died shortly after getting the number registered in their name. The first owner died of cancer, while the other 2 were shot down without any solid motive. That's rather concerning. I can't imagine, though, that that's the only phone number that has ever had something strange attached to it, as far as like people dying. That's an interesting one. The Crying Boy Painting, number 10 here. The painting of the Crying Boy was created by artist Giovanni Bragolin. It looks like, I think I'm saying that right. And became famous quickly. It was then mass-produced and was found in many homes across Britain. However, soon many of the homes mysteriously caught fire. But the most disturbing part of the entire incident was that no matter how severe the fire was, the painting remained absolutely fine. Some regarded these fires as mere coincidences, but the undamaged paintings have not been bagged. But the undamaged paintings have not been bagged by a valid explanation till date. Okay, so the painting has lived through several fires. That's an interesting one. I feel like I've heard of this one before, but I can't remember where. I would be interested to see, like, the circumstances, you know? Maybe it's the type of painting that, like, they keep locked away in a safe or something. It would be weird if it was, like, in multiple houses, like, hanging on a wall, and every time the house is burned down completely, except for the one wall where the painting was. That would be a really, really weird one. And, of course, makes it harder to explain. But, so that's a pretty good one there. Ah, yes, there's the other evil doll. Robert the Evil Doll. So Robert Otto was gifted a look-alike doll by one of his servants who apparently hated the family. Neighbors of Robert used to hear him having a conversation with the doll. After his death, a couple bought the house and their 8-year-old daughter found the doll in the attic. The girl often claimed that the doll was trying to kill her. The doll is now on display in a museum in Key West and is still believed to curse people. Yes, there's a lot of information out there about Robert the Doll. I've heard about him several times. And the entire story there is kind of creepy, especially with the fact that, like, I believe that the doll was named after Robert, which is his owner, the kid. And the kid, even when he grew up, supposedly, like, he kept this doll. It was a weird situation, too, with, like, he got married and he still, like, had the doll and his wife thought it was kind of weird. And she wanted it up in the attic and supposedly it would, like, stare down at people on the street and stuff. So that's kind of weird on the face of it. And then, yeah, it's sitting in a museum in Key West. This is another one that I would love to go down and check out. If for no other reason than, like, there's been so many stories, and this is, again, like the cursed location earlier, of people that go down and supposedly, like, I don't know if it's a hard rule or if it's just, like, a recommendation, but, like, if you want to take a picture of Robert, you're supposed to, like, ask his permission, otherwise he'll curse you. And I saw in one of the videos I was watching that, you know, there were stories about people that had actually taken a picture, left, but they hadn't asked permission, and then got in a car accident or something weird happened. So there's been cases of that. There's been some really weird kind of situations, I think. But again, it could, going back to, like, the cursed locations, it could be the same thing here where maybe there's dozens of people that take pictures of him on a weekly basis even that don't ask his permission. And, like, one or two of those people has something happen to them at some point in the next several months, which statistically something is probably going to happen, good or bad. But, like, you know, one or two of those people have an experience, then they call the museum and say, hey, this happened to me, I took a picture, I wanted to apologize or whatever. So that's another one of those really interesting ones. It would be interesting to see the statistics. And if there's anybody, you know, if you're watching this and maybe you've taken a picture of Robert the Doll, maybe you've had the chance to go down there and didn't ask permission and nothing ever happened, I would love to hear stories like that too. Or if you visited and had something happen, like, that would be, I would love to hear those kind of things, just because I think some of these things, they just need more information about them to be able to kind of determine what's actually going on. Okay, so this was actually mentioned on the page that we were reading on Wikipedia. So it's the Hope Diamond. So this is another cursed object that must be kept away from human reach and is unusually large size with soothing blue shade and is worth about $250 million. However, the diamond is believed to be cursed since the 17th century and brings great misfortune and misery to its wearer. Folklore state that the French merchant plucked the gem from one of the eyes of a Hindu idol in 1653, and ever since then, whoever owns this 115 carat blue diamond opens the door for bad luck. That's The hell was that? I don't see the cat. What the fuck was that? Okay. That was weird. Anyway, go back to the Hope Diamond. Where was I? 115 carat. Yeah, that's a big diamond. So cursed, believed to be cursed since the 17th century. So I wonder if they just say it's cursed because they want to scare people away from it. You know, if you think it's cursed, maybe you're less likely to steal it or something. I don't know. That was really weird. Sorry, that's kind of bothering me a little bit. Let me get my train of thought back here real quick and take a sip of tea. Back in the groove. So Thomas Busby chair. So this is the one that was actually mentioned on the curse article in Wikipedia. So it's popularly known as Busby's stoop chair. This wooden furniture is cursed by the spirit of Thomas Busby, who was known to ruthlessly murder people before getting hanged for his crimes. Also, he was hanged. Interesting. He requested to have a meal in his favorite local pub. Upon finishing his meal, he stood and said, May sudden death come to anyone who dares sit in my chair. Wow! And ever since then, 63 people who dared to sit in the chair met untimely and terrifying deaths. Later, the owner of the pub donated the chair to the Thirsk Museum, UK, and it is still there, hung 1.5 meters off the ground to prevent further deaths. That's a totally different time. That's that's not the way, definitely not the way it is now. But like, imagine that you're convicted and sentenced to death, and you're like, hey, I've got a favorite pub. I want to have my last meal there. And they oblige you. They take you down there. Here, have a meal at your pub. We're going to take you out back and hang you when we're done. I might have to look into that one at some point. That might be interesting to check it out. It doesn't have a year here, so I could probably look up his name and stuff, but it says 63 people who dared sit in the chair met untimely and terrifying deaths. I wonder how substantiated that is. That's kind of interesting. Elmo knows your name. Elmo's creepy anyway, let alone a cursed Elmo. Elmo, the popular Sesame Street character, had a doll version of it launched who was programmed to memorize his user's name. A young boy, James Bowman, was a big fan of Elmo, so his mother decided to gift him one on his 10th birthday. However, a few days later, Elmo began to chant, "Kill James," continuously. Wow! This made his mom throw away the accursed toy. After a couple of years, other such incidents came into light regarding the Elmo doll. Of course it did. Like, that's got to be some programmer looking just to mess with people. Like, I've always wondered to myself, what if you were a programmer for one of these like talking dolls like this, and you just wrote some weird lines of code in there just to screw with people? I can't imagine that kid. That had to leave a mark. That had to be a scar. And especially, I used to have like a Furby doll when I was a kid. I don't know if you remember the Furby dolls. Patch, really? What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? Come up here and lay down. Sorry, the cat's messing with my light. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Quit messing with the light. Come over here and lay down. But I had a Furby doll, and that thing at times in the middle of the night would go off, and just random things like, Furby hungry, which that's creepy enough on its own, especially when you have a cat. Was that you earlier? Were you messing with me, huh? No, I was upstairs, Dad. No, I know. But yeah, imagine being that 10-year-old kid and waking up or laying there in the middle of the night in your dark room, and you just hear Elmo in that voice that he does, kill James, kill James. Like, that would be scarring for any child. I don't care. Like, having Elmo saying he wants to kill you. Wow. But that sounds like a programming error as opposed to a cursed doll. I might have to look in more into that at some point, because that's a little more funny, but also like terrifying for any child that dealt with that. And especially, like it says, after a couple years, other such incidents came to light. So that means there's probably a whole group of kids out there that had one of these Elmo dolls that heard it saying kill, insert child's name here. Like, no thank you. I'm done with Elmo. No more. So 15 here. This looks like a rather awkward statue. The woman from Lemb statue. So the woman from Lemb was found in Cyprus in 1878 and is an eye-catching artifact carved from limestone. The statue is said to have been owned by 4 different families, each of them dying within a few years of obtaining the artifact. Like the entire family? Jesus. Terrified by the deadly history of the statue, the only surviving member of the last family donated the statue to the Royal Scottish Museum in Edinburgh, Scotland. However, things didn't stop there. The museum curator who handled the statue was mysteriously murdered after a few days. Was he the last one? Like, I don't know, man. If they asked me to like replace a curator who was murdered after taking a hold of the statue, and by the way, the statue is now going to be my responsibility, that might be kind of weird. Might be time to pump the brakes, because that's I don't know how much I would trust that job. Number 16, the Basano Vase. Another cursed object that must not be touched is the Basano Vase that was made in the 15th century by an Italian maiden on her wedding night as a gift for her groom. So she just made it on her wedding night? That's a weird wedding night. I don't know what you did on your wedding night, but I wasn't making vases. Locals say that she was found murdered with the vase in her hand that very night. Obviously, her new husband just didn't like the vase. Like, why was nobody looking at him? The vase was then passed on from families to families, each claiming unfortunate deaths of love. So what? They took the vase. Okay, so they find this woman on her wedding night, dead, with this vase in her hands. And then they, resell it? Like, how does it get passed on? In 1988, it was offered to multiple museums, but all of them refused to take it because of the curse on it. I mean, that's not the only cursed object ever offered to a museum. You're telling me that this one particular object was too cursed for them? Where exactly it is now remains unclear, but some say that it is buried in a lead coffin in an inaccessible place. That's a really weird one. Like, just that entire story. First of all, I'm curious as to, did the new husband get, did they arrest him? Who murdered her? What happened? I really want to know about that now, but also, they found the vase. She's holding the vase in her dead hands. How does that get passed off? Who says, yeah, sure, I'll take this vase that a dead woman was holding? That's a really weird circumstance. And then the museum thing, offered to multiple museums, but all refused to take it because of the curse. What? That is such a weird circumstance. That's why some of these might be kind of fun to dig into, because that... Wow. Number 17 here. I have heard of these. This is going to be a fun one. Dybbuk Box. The Dybbuk Box came to light in 2001 when Kevin Mannis purchased a wine cabinet and started having terrible nightmares. He then decided to gift the cabinet to his mother, who suffered a stroke the very day she received it. Oh my God! I wouldn't want to... Dybbuk Box or no, I wouldn't want to be that guy. I would feel so bad. I brought this object into my life. I was having trouble with it. I give it to my mother, and she suffers a stroke the next day. Just wow. Not just this, every person who ever owned that wine cabinet has reported experiencing horrible events, so people have just kept passing it on. The last owner of the cabinet, Jason Haxton, found out that the box possesses the spirit of a malicious Jewish creature called Dybbuk, who has the ability to haunt and possess the living. So I've heard of Dybbuk boxes before. This isn't the only one, supposedly. Like, there's others out there, I guess. I'm not sure if Dybbuk is like the name of a singular creature that just possesses all of these boxes, or if it's a type of creature. That would be interesting to kind of look into. But yeah, that's kind of... I don't know that I believe that something like that... I mean, it's weird circumstances, and I would definitely feel bad if I was the guy that had gifted that to my mother, who then passed away the next day. But I don't know, how do they discern? Like, not only that it's possessed by a demon or a ghost, but specifically a Jewish creature called a Dybbuk. Like, how did they discern that? I'm so curious now. Maybe I'll make an entire video on Dybbuks. That would be kind of interesting. Ooh, I've heard of this one before. Hold on. Gotta get a sip of tea before talking about the Iceman. So the Iceman, I've heard of this one. I've seen videos on it covering it before. So the mummy of Otzi, aka the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Otzi Alps in Italy. It's believed that the Iceman belonged to 3000 BCE. Yeah, okay. It's believed that the Iceman belonged to 3000 BCE, and his body was preserved because of the glacier that surrounded him after he died. However, soon after his discovery, people who were involved with his discovery began to die due to violent accidents. Forensic pathologist Rainer Henn died in a horrific car accident. Mountaineer Kurt Fritz died in an avalanche. Not really surprising. And hiker Helmut Simon died after falling off of a dangerous hidden path. Also, probably not too super, like, out there. People believe that the discovery of the Iceman is a curse and has the power to destroy mankind. That's interesting. I didn't know about that part. I heard that it was cursed, or it was... To me, it's kind of a cool piece of, like, historical evidence to kind of point to, like, what... Try to figure out, like, what this guy went through. They found other bodies of, like, that were mummified in ice. There's been a couple others that I've heard of. But this sounds very similar to, like, the tomb of Tutankhamun, when they unearthed that in the 1930s. And there's a bunch of mysterious deaths around that. That one more likely was due to bacteria or some kind of a pathogen that was in the tomb that maybe had been dormant for a couple thousand years by the time it was unearthed. But no real way to tell for sure on that one. This one, it sounds like they're saying, these people suffered, like, violent deaths, which it's not out of the realm of possibility. And the thing about it is, if you think about, like, all of the objects, the historical type of things that have been unearthed over time, statistically, there was going to be probably something that multiple people, because car accidents are pretty common. Dying in an avalanche, not common, but if you're a mountain climber, your probability is higher. And the same thing for the hiker falling off of a dangerous hidden path. Like, not that these things are, like, common ways to die, and that's probably why they stand out more. If they had died of, like, normal means, it might still have been attributed to a curse, but I think because they're kind of crazy ways. But when you think about the historical things that have been uncovered and found, at some point, one of them was going to probably have some violent deaths attributed to it, just because people die violently sometimes, as sucky as it is. Like, that's just a fact of life. Causation or correlation doesn't equal causation. Could it be a curse? Maybe, but it just seems kind of weird. From a historical standpoint, I love this kind of thing, just because it's so interesting to think about. Like, this guy was from, they're saying 3000 BCE. That's 5,000 years ago. Like, that's a picture into a world that, like, we don't know a whole lot about. So that's why it's interesting and fascinating in my eyes. I've heard of this one before, but I didn't know it was cursed. So the Terracotta Army in Shanxi, China. I think Shanxi is the way to say that. Shanxi, China is a unique 2,200 pieces of funerary art which are regarded as the most massive archaeological discovery of modern times. However, it is nothing but a bearer of bad luck for all those 7 farmers who discovered it in 1974. Interesting. Soon after the discovery, their farmland was claimed by the government and their homes were demolished to make way for an exhibition hall and gift shops. Wow! Like, that sucks. Like, it would be one thing if the government had said to them, we're going to buy you out. And maybe they did. I don't know. It says claimed, so I'm assuming that they just came in and said, hey, this is ours now. But, like, imagine that you were one of those farmers that found this thing and then had the government come in and say, hey, we own this land now and we're building gift shops where your house used to be. Like, that sucks. And it's a very fascinating historical find. I'm all for, like, having it available for exhibitions and research and that kind of stuff. But, oh my God, those poor farmers. That would suck. Like, if you're a farmer in that scenario, you probably aren't too happy with... You don't really care about the history. You've lost your livelihood. And from what I understand, this was underground is where these things were. They had to dig all of this out. Like, this is a massive area right here they had to dig out. These are all hand-carved soldiers. Like, it's pretty crazy. But, yeah, that would be one that I might like to see at some point in my life just because of the history for it. So it looks like this is the last one, which is interesting because it says 21 cursed items, and the last one is number 20. Okay, whatever. You lied to me, Scoop Whoop. But number 20 is the Belcourt Castle chairs. So this former summer cottage in Rhode Island has a ballroom where you will find haunted chairs. Visitors have reported feeling chills racing up and down their spine while standing near the chairs, or have felt a strange sensation of energy around them. Others have reportedly been pushed down from the chairs by an unseen force. So I'm assuming that means they were sitting in the chairs and got pushed down while they were sitting in the chairs? Yeah, that's a really interesting one. That's another one that I hadn't heard of. There's quite a few I haven't heard of on this list. So, like, this seems like your standard typical haunted house type of stuff. I don't know, other than like being in close proximity to the chairs. I'd be interested to see if they had like other reported haunting stuff from around the house, or if it's only around these chairs. That's kind of an interesting thing. And being that it's in Rhode Island, I wonder if that's a place I could visit. That might be something to look into at some point. That's kind of cool though. But yeah, I wonder if that's. I mean, and how did they figure? Look at the statue sitting here. Like, there's a statue on the table here. Is it all the chairs, or is it only like one of the chairs? Like, is it? It doesn't really say. It's just looks like it's just these 2 chairs, or all of the chairs. I'm not sure. There's also a little couch back here and another chair over here. So I'm not sure which chair is the haunted chair, or if all of them are just haunted. That seems kind of weird that somebody would be haunting all of these chairs. But yeah. So, but that's the end of the list there. Of the number 20 of the 21 cursed items. Apparently they don't know how to title or don't know how to count. I'm not sure which one it is, but so that was 20 cursed items from around the world. What did you guys think of those? Have you heard of any of those? Have you heard of all of them? Maybe there's... And what cursed items do you know of that weren't on that list? Obviously, I would like to continue a series like this and kind of talk a little bit more about some of these things, just because I think it gets into a little bit more of an interesting kind of thing to look at some of these real-world cases. We've talked a lot about ghosts and ghost videos and all that kind of stuff, and while all that is fun to talk about, I think opening it up a little bit and being able to talk about some of these things, like cursed objects, is going to make for some interesting stuff. So let me know what you think of that. Like I said earlier, let me know what you think down in the comments about my ideas for the Higher Legends and Tales stuff, because that's something that I've been kind of mulling over. I really want to get back into that series. We had some problems My wife's car actually got hit by the neighbor a couple of weeks ago, and so it's kind of out of commission at the moment. So we're down to one car, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to get out. But I really want to get back into this Ohio Legends and Tales series, and I've been doing some research and looking up some stories. I've been pulling up newspapers and that kind of thing, and maybe if you like, I can make a little video showing some of the newspaper stuff that I look up, because I found some really cool, interesting things from like the 1800s. That one was an entire story talking with a coroner who was retiring about some of the strange stuff that he'd witnessed over his 6 years as a coroner. And there's some funny stuff in there. There was some kind of sad stuff in there, some mysteries. So that's some of the stuff I'm thinking about doing for the channel moving forward. So let me know. I'm really interested to hear what you guys want to see. And, I don't want to be constricted necessarily to having to go out and film some of this stuff, just because while I enjoy much, I'd rather be out doing it. The time constraints right now, it's been really difficult lately just to even have the chance to be able to get out and film. And the times that I have been able to get out have been for the Reaper stuff. And that to me is the kind of the primary thing. If I have the chance to go out, I want to focus on the Reaper videos above all else, just because that's an important series to me to get done in the next couple of months. And so the little bit of time that I do have available to go out when the weather's not terrible has been spent focusing on that series, because that's kind of in the hierarchy. Like up here, I want to focus on that first. So in order to do the Ohio Legends and Tales stuff, and for what do you think of expanding, like doing other things outside of the state of Ohio, let me know down in the comments. And I think that's all I've got. I'm still kind of concerned. I'll have to figure out what the heck. It sounded like something fell, but I'm not really sure. So, but yeah, that's all I've got. I'll put a video right up here. Check that one out if you haven't already. And everybody have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.